Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing stories from real estate investors and how investing has changed their lives. Thank you to PropertyCast.io for bringing you this month's episodes of Inspired to Invest. Hey everybody, welcome to the Inspired to Invest podcast. I have Frank Hanna joining me for today from Philadelphia. So he's got some snow just like we do here. He is a CHFC private wealth advisor, and he's a leading specialist in estate planning, business succession, and wealth management for individuals, executives, as well as business owners. Back in 2007, he launched a financial consulting firm with his family, providing guidance in real estate development. So obviously that'll be a really interesting thing to dive into here. Tax management and private investment. He has successfully taken all of his years of investing experience in running his own companies and applying his business acumen and lessons so that he can also share these challenges and concerns with clients so that he can help them get to the next level with their investment and their wealth planning. It also gives him a very unique perspective that a lot of financials may not otherwise have, since he's straddling finance and real estate. So thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Serena. Excited to be here.
So obviously you've got quite a wealth of experience, no pun intended. But can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you went down this path?
Sure. So I grew up in kind of the restaurant hospitality industry and field. So my father knew that he wanted to do that from a young man. And all my life up until about 30 years old, I was told, hey, this is what you're going to do and you're going to be successful. And it's great. So I did get a lot of benefit out of about 15 years in the restaurant business, but ultimately decided, hey, I don't love this. It's not my passion.
Yeah.
And I realized I wanted to, segue into something else. With that being said, because of our success in the restaurant business, I did get kind of a secondhand viewpoint at a lot of aspects of real estate investment and high level estate and tax planning. And I had an interest there. And I said, hey, you know what? I think I have some good relationships here. I identify kind of a void in our marketplace for objective, independent guidance on that front. So ultimately, I started a boutique wealth management firm to really kind of create a service for individuals that were lacking that type of guidance.
Yeah. Now, obviously, real estate and hospitality are very, very different. I guess they can both be a grind in different ways, but if you're working in restaurants, obviously it can be a lot of evenings and weekends and stuff like that. So what was the exact catalyst that kind of propelled you into this new direction?
I was married with two young kids that I didn't see at all. I was working 100 hours a week, and I ultimately just said, hey, the clock's ticking. Although 30 is a young age, I don't think you're ever too old to take a new path.
Yeah.
And I saw my life flashing before me, and I was kind of at a sideline seat. So
Yeah.
I took a big risk to do that, and it was the best move I ever made. And I'm a big believer in, if you love what you do, you're never working a day.
Yeah.
So started about 2007, 2008 when the world was cratering. So
Perfect
I don't
timing.
know. Yeah, perfect timing. I came in on the back end of that, and have learned a lot and have some good mentors, and ultimately built this practice up. And now we have 4 offices, all within the U.S. We manage over $1 billion of client assets in a variety of different strategies, a lot of which are securitized real estate that we've kind of packaged.
Yeah.
And no, it's been great.
Now, in terms of when you first made this decision, did you straddle both for a little while, or did you just rip off the Band-Aid and you're like, okay, like this chapter is over, let's move along? Like, I'm just curious to see how people, do that. A lot of the times it's necessary that they do this part-time for a while. So making shed some light on that as well.
Yeah, no, it definitely did not happen overnight. I say it took me about 4 years to have the courage to walk away. I kept going to my family, people around me, and my father told me I was an idiot, and
Of course.
I'd regret it for the rest of my life. And him and I talk about that moment now, and I say thank God you made my life so miserable working for you. I wouldn't have had the courage to leave the business. So yeah, it took a lot of time, and ultimately it was probably the scariest thing I ever did, but the best thing I ever did as well.
So in terms of building your real estate portfolio, what did that look like in the beginning and where does it sit today?
So we started while I still worked for my family. We were buying some commercial real estate, some single tenant, triple net lease properties. We also had kind of a multifamily build to rent um, single family home portfolio. We started with one, and we ultimately grew that to several, I'd say sizable communities, maybe like 50 homes. And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, got some really nice cash flow, some appreciation, realized we didn't love being in the day-to-day management of that type of thing. So we
Yeah.
ended up selling a lot of that, doing 1031 tax deferred exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have,
Another benefit of being an American.
yeah,
I wish we
exactly.
had that here.
What's that?
I said I wish we had that here. We don't have anything like that.
I know. It's crazy because there's good opportunities up north, and I just yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we took advantage of the tax laws that were in place, and ultimately, grew that snowball of dollars and deferred the tax over and over again. And
Mm-hmm.
now we have, a lot of assets still with the family. But as I kind of segued into the financial advisory space, I was introduced to some really successful groups and partners across the U.S. and basically
Yeah.
said, "Hey, you know what? These guys are doing some special things. Why don't we utilize again the tax laws and securitize or package some of these really attractive deals?
Yeah.
Use our experiences and our due diligence and our systems to make sure the deal is conservative and has a high probability of success." But
Yeah.
then package that and offer that to smaller investors, in some cases for as little as, $25,000, you can
Yeah.
invest and
And
get
are
a
these
proposal.
typically like apartment syndications? Are they land development? Like what would that typically look like?
Yeah, so we do a little bit of everything. So I'd say, the bulk of our deals are probably multifamily, student housing,
Okay.
industrial, self-storage. We basically probably about 10 years ago went out to the marketplace and said, who are the major players in each asset class?
Yeah.
And let's find the top dog in those groups
Mm-hmm.
and make sure, again, their investment philosophy matches what we're trying to do there. And
Yeah.
then struck a deal to kind of package those deals. And we're more, the middleman, the legs on the street that go and fundraise and take our relationships that are moving quick, and almost all of them have their own real estate, but then say, hey, is this something that you would have interest in if
Yeah.
you don't have the appetite for the stock or bond market and
Yeah.
the volatility that comes with that?
Now, in terms of the location, I know you're in Philadelphia. Is that specifically the area, or are you open to just markets anywhere for these kinds of deals?
Yeah, no, I'd say not many of our deals are actually in Pennsylvania. I'd say the bulk of our deals are in, pro business, tax favored, pro
Yeah.
growth states. So I'd say our target markets right now are Charleston, Nashville, Charlotte, Richmond, all over Florida, Texas,
Hmm.
Arizona, Georgia. So those
Yeah.
are kind of the bulk of the states that we work in. We're not
Yeah.
doing anything in New York or California or states that are highly restrictive. So we do a lot of um, demographic studies, and there's a good storyline before we even entertain a deal.
Yeah.
And then, ultimately we pursue a deal where we think, again, people are moving to, and there's good data that backs why we support the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that makes sense. And it's amazing, even here in Canada, just how different things can be from province to province. Like I'm in Ontario, but I've never been in Ontario. So it's a
Yeah.
combination of, the landlord tenant board laws, but it's also just doesn't make sense from a cash flow perspective that it's so
Yep.
expensive to buy here now. It just really doesn't make any sense unless you're going to like a northern community or something like that. So I think for a lot of people, they've shifted to like midterm rentals, short-term rentals, student rentals, things where you don't necessarily have those same laws. But yeah, it's very, very different for us here. Now, when you look at, your past in the last, say, 15, 20 years, what do you think that you define as your biggest success to date?
I think just making that move and not giving up. Like when I did that move, regardless of the industry you're in, everything's tough, right? It'd be easy if everybody, did the same thing. And
Yeah.
ultimately, I had a wife and two kids So I couldn't afford to fail. So in our businesses, whether you're in real estate or financial advisor or any other career, there's a ton of rejection. There's a ton of reasons to, turn our tails and head in the other direction. And I don't know if I would have stuck it out if I was single or younger. I just, I had to put food on the table, and I did, I took the work ethic and the things that I had done within the restaurant hospitality business and applied them to what I do now. So
Yeah.
I'll answer a call from a client any time of day, an email. They joke and ask, do you ever sleep?
Yeah.
Because I'm just used to that. Like I feel like clients deserve that type of prompt response if they need something or have a question. And I think, again, that separates us a little bit from some of the guys we compete with.
Yeah,
Guys.
yeah, I know. I understand that. I had my own business for 18 years, and a lot of the
Yep.
business that we landed was just our attention to detail and how responsive we were. So it could be 5 in the morning or 10 at night. Like if you see the email come through, you don't just ignore it.
Yeah.
You at least acknowledge that you got it, let them know when you
Yep.
can deal with it and stuff like that. So definitely a line
Exactly.
there. Now you
Yeah.
talked about, maybe some situations where you could have felt like you would have walked away.
Mhm.
Would there have been a time that you sat back and you're like, oh, like if I did the right thing here, like, and you came close?
Only 5 or 10 times a week there for about 2 or 3 years.
That's all.
Yeah, I just when I first got in the business, you're trying to sell yourself, you're selling a service, right? And this is
Yeah.
the same in every field. And you got to have that confidence in yourself that what
Mhm.
you're doing is important and people need you whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got in the business and I started calling everybody I knew, and most of the people I thought would be responsive stopped answering my calls, didn't return my voicemails, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm that guy. I'm that guy that nobody's ever going to want to talk to again.
Yeah.
And that was tough. And then just dealing with the rejection of making a phone call and getting screamed at and hung up on. But
Yeah.
I would joke by Friday afternoon, I felt pretty good about my week. And then by Monday morning, I was scared to death that I didn't have enough going, and I
Yeah.
wasn't
Well,
going
it's
to be
hard when you're
successful.
repositioning yourself, right? It's almost like you got to prove yourself first before people are willing to trust you with their earnings and stuff like that. So it takes time to build
Yeah,
the foundation.
absolutely. Yeah, no, even family, friends, I thought, hey, they're going to give me a shot. And
They'll be the
ultimately,
last ones.
yeah, exactly. They ultimately were like, hey, well, we don't know. You might quit the business or fail out of the business
Yeah.
in a year and be selling rags on a corner. So why am I going to put my money there and
Yeah.
then have to deal with that after the fact? So I get it at this point now. And, there's definitely people that I didn't think were going to give me a shot that gave me a shot, and vice versa. But I love what I do. It's the best move I've ever made. And it makes you like appreciate it, when you go through those challenges and run
Yeah.
through brick walls, like, because it's not easy, you feel that much more self-satisfaction when you get the smallest of victories, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Now, when you look back at things and you think of lessons that you've learned, what would be some of the biggest that you have learned maybe the hard way? And looking back, is there anything you think you would have done differently, maybe to have had a different outcome at that point in time, or maybe so the lesson would have been so hard to stomach at that time?
Yeah, I mean, as far as making the move, I wish I had done it sooner. As far as being in this business, not every deal we've invested in has worked out perfectly. I think,
Hmm.
I'm a trusting individual, but you have to, dig into the details on everything you're
Yeah.
working on. So when I first got in the business, I let a few people, smooth talk me and promise the world, and
Yeah.
took their word as gold, and ultimately, realized that everybody's selling something, and
Yeah.
just because it's available doesn't mean it's good. So you either have to do the due diligence on your own or partner with somebody like you, Serena, or me that has some years of experience that can kind of
Mhm.
guide them and say, hey, listen, you know, real estate's fun and exciting until it's not, right?
Yeah.
And it's risky, and especially if you're tackling something on your own. So
Yeah.
I argue all day long. Listen, nothing in life is risk free, but I can almost promise you that, taking a relatively small amount of money and participating in one or several of our deals versus you taking, you know several $100,000 and chasing an asset on your own,
Yeah.
I could
Or just
almost
sitting in the
guarantee.
bank, like sitting
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a mutual fund or
exactly.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Diversification is king, and you got to find the right individuals that can guide you until you're confident enough to do it on your own.
Yeah, no, for sure. So with that being said, we're just going to take a really brief break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Is the real estate investment you're considering a gold mine or a landmine? Introducing PropertyCast.io, the black magic of real estate investment analysis. Use PropertyCast.io to analyze and underwrite real estate investment opportunities, unlock the potential of a property, and share professional reports. Jordan McGregor is a commercial realtor and founder of PropertyCast.io. He identified the need to simplify and streamline how properties are underwritten to help investors make better decisions and sound investments. PropertyCast.io is a best-in-class purpose-built tool for real estate investment analysis. To find out more, go to PropertyCast.io, and to sign up, click the link in the show notes. Thanks again for following along with this episode of Inspired to Invest. In addition to real estate, investing, and running my own brand experience agency for 18 years, I also published a book called The Accidental Entrepreneur in October of 2021. This is my story, and it chronicles how I turned tragedy into triumph to embrace my destiny in entrepreneurship. If you're interested in picking up a copy, you can find the link at serenahomesrealtor.com, and you can also find my link tree with all of the retailers in the details below. Thanks again for your support. Inspired to Invest is proud to support the Beyond Success program. In today's complex world, it's absolutely crucial for our youth to learn how to take charge of their financial future. We believe that every young person deserves access to accurate, practical financial information. Designed to bridge the gap, the Beyond Success program leverages a comprehensive educational bootcamp to equip young minds with essential financial literacy skills. At Beyond Success, it's not just about teaching financial literacy, it's also about fostering a foundation for a prosperous and empowered future. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Hey everybody, welcome back to Inspired to Invest. I have Frank Hanna here with me today from Philadelphia, and he's sharing some of his experiences in terms of how he went from hospitality and restaurants into real estate development and wealth management. So thanks again for being with us today. You've obviously talked about, how you got into this business, some of the crazy things that have happened along the way. But when you look back, what would you say is actually the craziest of all the things that have happened so far?
Oh, that's a good question. I think just the success we've had, is just something that
That's a good crazy.
yeah,
I'm used to
I
people
mean,
talking about things burning down or other things.
yeah, we've weathered some storms. I mean, we've gone through, this is back when I was in the restaurant or bar business, but we've had lawsuits, not nothing I would say we did wrong, but when you're in a business that has, thousands of patrons coming through your door
Yeah.
every day, there's a lot of risk there. We've had, lawsuits and deaths and all types of stuff that have happened that you've kind of gotten through.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in my business now, again, the more success that you have and the bigger you grow and the more clients you take on, the more susceptible that you are. Yeah. You more exposure you have that, something bad could happen, or, somebody's going to come after you for X, Y, and Z. So, I would say, but again, at the end of the day, like just, doing a 180 and going down a career path that I never intended has been pretty rewarding.
Yeah. Now, in terms of learning the lay of the land, so have you, been invested in any real estate education or mentorship? And if you have, what would you say is some of the best advice that you received from an organization like that or a mentor?
Yeah, I would just say a lot of great mentors, a lot of good educational platforms that we participated in, and I think information is a good thing, right? So not everybody's style is going to be the same. So you tell anybody that's interested in this or even involved in this at this point is just, the more information you can absorb
Yeah.
is incredible, right? And I think keeping your capital working for you,
Yeah.
there's never a perfect time to invest in anything, let alone real estate. But I'm a big advocate of just keeping those dollars working for you.
Yeah.
And I love real estate above everything else. So even though I'm a big advocate of having your dollars in the stock market and the bond market at times,
Yeah.
there's nothing like real estate where you can get the tax benefits, the income, and almost certainly the appreciation that's
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I'd
keep it.
have to agree. I feel like one thing that always drew me to it is just the tangibility of it. Like, not to say that there's anything wrong with investing in stocks and mutual funds, but for me, it just there's so many things that can shift it, right? Like, could be the weather, it could be a speculation, it could be a
Yeah,
war, like, and at the end of the day, like, I've seen people that have lost a lot of money and, in some
yep,
cases, almost their entire life savings. And it doesn't mean that that can't happen in real estate. Obviously, we saw 2008, but at the end of
yep,
the day, it's still bricks and mortar. I feel like it will rebound at some point, where with a stock,
yep.
it may not, so I think that there's always that value there, the inherent value
Yeah.
there.
No, that's a great point. So we, a lot of the deals that I've mentioned again are syndicated, right? And
Yeah.
the kind of pushback when you're investing in, maybe a mutual fund or some type of non-tangible investment is, hey, what do I really own? I just see a ticker symbol and a price that goes up and down and all over the
Yeah.
place.
A quarterly
And a lot of
statement.
yeah, real estate. It's funny. I say this story all the time. So we do a lot of 1031 exchange planning, and most of your listeners probably know what that is. But it's ability to not realize gain or loss on a real estate sale as long as you reinvest the capital in a fixed period of time.
Hmm.
So a lot of our deals are 1031 exchange eligible. But I always tell this story. We had an individual sell a farm that he was not working. He loved Charleston. So we had a student housing deal and a self-storage deal that he did a 1031 exchange into two of our deals. And him and his wife drive down there to Charleston from Delaware, which is not a short drive.
Yeah.
And he goes into the deals. He has no management, no involvement. Nobody knows
He likes
anything
to
about
see
it.
it.
He goes down there and he asks the front girls at the front desks what's going on.
Yeah.
He talks to people that are walking by, looks at how clean the facility is, takes pictures, then calls me and says, "Hey, I went into my self storage building and my student housing, and everything looks great." And I joke with him. I say, you might own the sidewalk out front based on the total value of the deal, but
Yeah.
that's just the story. Like I do the same thing because I invest in a lot of our deals, and I love being like, "Hey, you know what? However large an investment I made in that deal, I own a
Yeah.
piece of that." And,
Yeah.
it makes people excited or proud or,
Yeah. No,
all
that
the,
makes perfect sense. Now, one thing I always like to ask investors that I'm interviewing is what their financial freedom number is and what's really next for them, if you're comfortable sharing that. And it doesn't have to be like a specific dollar value. It could be number of doors or it could be return on time. Everyone has a kind of their different way of answering it.
yeah, I would say, the way I would put it is, until my passive income meets my active income, right?
Hmm.
So my active income has gone up every year we've been in the business.
Hmm.
But ultimately reinvesting those dollars when my investment income can match my active income, meaning
Yeah.
my rent, my dividends, everything that I've invested in. Once
Yeah.
that dollar amount, reaches that number, I think I'm free, but I still won't stop. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, times are changing, and it's one of those things where typically we do a lot of retirement analysis,
Yeah.
and it's typically, um, you know, there's not an age. It's typically either a number or an income stream. And,
Yeah.
$1 million, $2 million, three, whatever however that big that seemed
Yeah.
decades ago, it's just not the same, especially in this
Yeah.
hyper inflationary environment. So people
Yeah.
need to plan early and think ahead. And, we run into people that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s that say, "Hey, I'm planning on retirement in a couple of years." And we look at their figures and say, "No, you're not.
Yeah. 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 I think
You're
it's actually amazing to me, like how few people maybe it's like the baby boomer generation that just didn't necessarily think ahead like that. And nobody probably expected inflation to be the way that it has been and stuff like that. But I know investors that even started when they were 50 and they've moved into things like multifamily and land development, all these crazy things in their senior
Yeah.
years, but now they've been very successful at it, right? Just because they were trying
Yep.
to create that safety net and all of that. Now, in
Yep.
terms of how real estate investing has changed your life, can you shed some light on, what your work-life balance looks like now compared to what it was like before and all those good things?
Yeah. Well, I'd say I have a life now, where before I didn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is due to just real estate investment. Again, when I build up a little cash flow or a little cash, I look at all the opportunities that are out there,
Yeah.
many of which we've put together, and I just take, you know, small amounts of money and continue to invest, in a variety of different deals.
Yeah.
And it has allowed me, financial freedom. When you are in your business, as scary as it might be, you're your own boss, but
Mhm.
you're also betting on yourself. So I, because we've got that passive income strong enough, and we've, diversified, and we've, worked hard over, 15, 20 years in this business, it affords us the ability to, enjoy the finer things in life, like ice hockey tournaments in Ontario, and
Yeah.
driving through a blizzard in Buffalo, headed back to Philadelphia. But now, if I could never have done that. I used to
Yeah.
have to request off from my father 6 months in advance if I
Oh
wanted off a
dear.
Saturday. If I wanted off a Saturday night, and then that weekend would come, and he said, "I don't remember you asking about that. You can't." What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I think people that work in the restaurant industry, it's definitely got to have challenges on their personal lives. Like you're always working when everybody else is playing, right? So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I
now,
do have. Yeah.
in terms of the podcast itself, obviously it's called Inspire to Invest. So I always like to ask people what their favorite inspirational quote is. Do you have one that comes to mind?
Um, let's see, inspirational quote. I would just I that one that I mentioned earlier is one that's resonated me, and you never work a day if you never feel like you work a day in your life if you enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
And I would just tell people that, whether it's real estate or anything else, like if you truly don't enjoy what you do, um, your life's going to suffer. And don't be afraid to take a chance
Yeah.
and bet on yourself, and swing for the fences and try something new. And
Yeah.
I switched my career at 30, which I thought was late in the game at that point in
Now
time.
you're like, that's not late.
Now I
Yeah.
got, man, I wish I was 30 again. That was a
Yeah.
good time in my life. But I would say if you're 40 or you're 50, it's never too late to change. And
Yeah.
I would encourage people to not be afraid to do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, is there anything in closing that you want to leave with the listeners?
I would just say, if we can help you in any way, happy to have a conversation. We don't charge a fee or a cost to have a conversation to see if there's something we could help you with. So whether it's state trust asset protection type planning, whether it's, hey, how do I save money in taxes? How do I protect my wealth?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I've got a little cash flow and I might be interested in investing in some real
Yeah.
estate deals. Happy to have that conversation. I can guarantee you a 15-minute conversation with us.
Yeah.
You'll get value out of that, regardless if we decide to work together.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, even when I talk to people about different things that I've learned, and just encouraging them to have the conversations and just understand what's out there and what's possible. And so often some people just won't have the conversations. Like they seem all interested and they want to learn more, but then when push comes to shove, they like shut down and they won't
Yeah,
even have the conversation. I'm like, but
yeah,
you're not pressured into doing anything. Like, but it could expose you to like something brand new and it could totally change your life for the better, right? So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
just
You don't
learn.
know what you don't know.
You don't know, make the connections and just try to learn as
Yep.
much as you can. Now, in terms of getting in touch, what's the easiest and best way for someone that's watching or listening to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would say probably email. So my email is Frank, FrankHanna at REV as in Victor, X as in X-ray, wealth.com. So
Great.
Frank Hanna at RevXwealth.com.
Great. And we'll include that below in case anyone had a bit of a tongue twister there. So
Yeah.
we'll have it in the show
Well,
notes. Of course, thank you for your time being here for today. And
Yeah.
for anyone that is watching or listening, thank you for your time. If you like what you've just seen or heard, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, above all else, make sure that when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Take care. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks
That's
a
it for
lot.
us. In terms of the recording, I'm just going to end it here. Give me one sec. Thank you to PropertyCast.io for bringing you this month's episodes of Inspired to Invest. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.